sample that is having defects, if let's say that particular defect is considered as minority among the population. But if let's say you want to study about the defects during the manufacturing of the product, you want to study the defects of the the product itself during processing, then you need to collect the defective sample. Okay, so for your slide, this one, yesterday I have gone through. Alright, so this particular YouTube yang atas ni, sekejap, I tukar pen. Yang atas dengan yang bawah ni, these two YouTube, it is optional for you to watch. You tak watch pun tak apa because it's just a matter of something like the YouTube is meant to entertain you, something like that. But you can if let's say you want to take your, you want to watch it, then you can watch it. Alright, and then for the this one is your English good or bad. This one is whereby Mat Saleh is making a video where he talk in Malay. So again, this one is up to you whether you want to watch it or not. And this question, is English still relevant in the future? I do not know why this particular YouTube is being added, because this one, the fourth YouTube video is meant for it's showing that Mark Zuckerberg is talking in Mandarin. Well, I do strongly believe that you need to make sure you are still fluent in English, as well as you know how to talk properly in Bahasa, because I deal with one of my supplier in China. They can speak English. We communicated in English. Alright, so those for the first chapter, that one is optional for you to watch. Those, if let's say you want to save your data, you want to save your time, then you don't have to watch it. Alright, so now we continue for the chapter learning outcome. Kita ada berapa orang ni? 43. Ada lagi kan yang belum masuk? Okay, so for this particular chapter 4, at the end of this particular chapter, the students should be able to differentiate the classification of defects in food products. Okay, because you are going to know the classification, the classes of defects for food industry, right? And then the second one, to describe the type of defects that exist in food products. Okay, and then last but not least, to explain the method that is being used to detect for defects of food products. Okay, if you got time, rather than you watch the YouTube on the first chapter, I would suggest to you for you to watch or for you to look on YouTube video of how the the detector, one of the detector, magnetic detector, or is meant to detect for the steel, how it works during the production, and for example the check weigher, how it works as well. I supposed to show that to you, but then tak sempat nak cari that content. But if you look for those, you cari dekat YouTube, memang ada je those how those detector works and how they check in terms of defects for the food product. Okay, and then we move on to chapter content. Okay, so the first one is classification of defects, and then types of defect, followed by method of detecting for defects. Okay, so the first one is a classification of defects. Okay, this one will be the introduction. So what does it mean by defects? Defects, it can be defined as a non-conformance of a product or services from specified requirements promised by manufacturers to the customer. Okay, meaning that, for example, you are the producer of food product. and then you have your supplier. So you have agreed, both of the parties have agreed on certain specification, on certain standard, that this particular raw material must be delivered at which condition in terms of the properties, in terms of the composition. So those, the specification and standardization has been set between the producer, the supplier, as well as the consumer. Consumer is you yang produce the food product. Okay, but then if let's say you receive the raw material that does not confirm to the confirm does not confirm to the specification, then we may call that product is defective. Okay, and then another thing, this one just to for your general information, for example, if let's say in production line, we have some power breakdown, for example, ataupun the product is not being produced according to the specification, or maybe it is having some problem, and then the worker did not segregate the defective product than to the normal product. So there is a one way of QA/QC to notify for the production what they did was wrong. That one, it is known as non-conformance report, NCR. So basically the terms kita panggil NCR is whereby QA/QC kita akan erase. Dia punya term dia macam tu. Kita akan erase NCR. Erase NCR meaning that QA/QC, we will write the incident or the report of what's happening in the production line, or maybe for the raw material, and then we will raise the NCR and give to the appropriate department to answer the incident, to answer the issue. Okay, then after they answer the issue, then of course QA/QC, we need to do some investigation whether that particular problem has been solved or not. Then after that, we can close that particular NCR, okay, non-conformance report, that particular report. And every time this particular NCR is being raised, it needs to be documented. Okay, and when it is documented, remember when we discussed for chapter 1, when we want to perform this HACCP as well as GMP, we need to have those documentation. So those NCR report, in terms of the defective of the product, we need to document so that when the auditor came in, they want to see what is the common issue that normally occur in your production line or in your factory. This one related to the production of the product, and then has it been solved ataupun tak. Okay, so and another thing, the use of this NCR is whereby when you have been operated the production for a few years, 10 years or 15 years, then sometimes, okay, kadang-kadang tu memang ada some issue, it happened 10 years ago ataupun it happened 5 years ago. And then after 5 years, the same incident happened, the same issue happened. So that's why it is important for us to have this type of report, because kita boleh we can refer back to this incident 5 years back, what we did back then, what went wrong, what are the corrective measure that has been done, and then has it been solved ataupun tak. Because as much as possible, we do not want the same problem to occur. But then sometimes memang akan ada problem yang akan jadi whereby it is a recurrent problem. So when it is a recurrent, so normally kita akan refer in our previous section, how did we solve the problem. Okay. So defect is a non-conformance of a product ataupun services. Okay, termasuk service lah. If let's say you are working with company that giving services to the people, to the customer, then if let's say your service is not up to the standard by the customer, then that one is considered as a defective services as well. Okay, so now the second one, the second point for defects. Defects are classified by numerical demerits and tracking of them over time, as well as location on the production line, which is a common practice. Okay, untuk defect, each industry, they will have their own classification of defect. For example, in Malaysia, kita ada contoh kilang roti. We have Gardenia and we have High Five. High Five lah. Gardenia and apa tu? Massimo. Okay, so although these two companies are producing similar product ataupun their uh, apa measure of their majority of their product is almost similar, but then of course these two companies, they will have different classification of defects depending on their own preference. Okay, for example, probably Massimo take certain classification of defect as major, but Gardenia, they take it as critical contohnya. So those classification really depending on the company itself. Okay, so it needs to be tracked along the time as well as the location. Where is the location take place for the defective product? Okay, then the elimination of the most troublesome defect must be the first priority to the manufacturer. Okay, meaning that as much as possible, we will try to eliminate any defective product from reaching the market. Okay, sebab apa? Sebab we do not want to have a defective product that is going to be bought by the customer or consumer, because this will have an effect towards the confidence level of the consumer. Okay, so for the following point, for the classification of defects, we have 4 classification of defects. The first one is critical, major, minor as well as insignificant. So again, this one, katakanlah contohnya Nestle, they for the fresh milk, they consider one of the defects is major, but then untuk Dash Lady, they consider as critical. So it really depends from one company to another company and from one industry to another industry. Okay, for example, you cannot make a blanket classification for all types of food products, because food products will have different commodities. So it really depends on the classes of food products. Okay, so now the advantages of having defect classification is whereby manufacturer or producer, they can focus on the area that need to have the attention the most. And then the manufacturer, they can determine the severity of defects as well as the cost estimation to repair for the the area. In terms of the check weigher check weigher tu is to check the weight of each product, ataupun the metal detector, baru I ingat tadi, metal detector ataupun the cooler whereby maybe the temperature of the cooler is not cold enough, so it is not able to cool down the product. When the product is being packed, it is still warm, so there might be water the effect of the heat came out from the product, so it is not a good condition for the product to be packed. So from there, maybe they can track down which part or which area that they need to do some repairing. Okay, so the first one is critical defect. This is the one that you have in your lecture notes. Okay, so ini okay, untuk yang criteria if you look at here, we have critical 1, we have critical 2 and critical 3. This one you need to refer on the following slide. What does it mean by critical 1, 2 and 3? Okay, for 1 is, for example yang critical 1 tu, this one is based on level, whether level 1, 2 or 3 for the critical defects. For level 1, this one basically it is contamination by contaminant that can cause death. For example, cyanide. And then we have this toxin produced from Clostridium botulinum, metal fragments or glass fragments. And then the second level of critical defects, for example, the product is severely discolored or it is infested with insects or the product is already moldy. Contohnya when you buy flour, for example flour, the flour is considered as old, has been stored in the retailer for quite some time, and maybe the area is very humid, so it tends to become moldy, so that one can be considered as critical defects. Okay, and then the third one is unapproved additives. Okay, unapproved additive meaning that some of the ingredients that being added into the food product is being prohibited by the law, but then this particular company, they still add it, maybe in terms to add in terms of the appearance, okay, in terms of the taste. Okay, so one is additives, and another one is deceptive labeling. Contohnya, if let's say the product is claimed to have low sodium, okay, for example low sodium, but then the sodium content of that particular product is normal, it's not being reduced at all. So that one is considered as deceptive labeling. Because when we talk about some labeling, those label basically they have their own target market. So some companies, they try to get this group of people in order to buy their products. So that's why sometimes they have this deceptive labeling. Okay, contohnya yang macam you all tahu, if let's say this happen in Malaysia, especially for cosmetic industry, local cosmetic industry, unapproved additives lah, deceptive labeling. Contohnya kurus within 3 days, putih 3 days, kulit putih 3 days, apa lagi, kurus, putih, apa lagi, nak gemuk, you want to increase your weight by 3 days. So everything is within 3 days you can achieve the result. Whereby when, for example, if let's say you try to lose your weight, it takes years for you to gain weight, but then you just need to have 3 days in order for you to lose weight. So that one is very misleading. Okay. And then ingredients exceeding the regulatory. For example, the addition of certain ingredients, contohnya macam preservative, okay, they have their own set of requirement. Okay, this one you all dah belajar dalam food law, apa, food hygiene, food regulation and apa, food hygiene and regulation. So some of the ingredients, they have their own level, but then probably because of this company, they want to make sure that their product can have a longer shelf life, so they add preservative more than what is being stated by USFDA. So that one is considered as against the law. Alright, so this one kita go back to the first to the previous slide. Okay, so depends on the level, level 1, 2 ataupun 3. Okay, so level 1 basically it related to the human safety. Okay, and then for level 2, this one also related to the health and safety of the human. And then level 3 is all about the regulation. Okay, so for product criteria, for critical defects, the product, when it is being consumed, it is dangerous to human health. One is level 1. Probably it is because it is being contaminated by the toxin produced by Clostridium botulinum. Okay, I mentioned to you when we want to collect sample, normally we will do sampling for physical, chemical and microbiological testing. So it is important for food industry to collect sample and they will do microbiological testing, especially for yeast and mold, TPC, total plate count, yang ni you all belajar kan masa microbe. Okay, and then kita akan buat juga untuk Salmonella as well as E. coli and Clostridium botulinum. Supposing E. coli, Salmonella and Clostridium botulinum should be not present in the product, except if let's say the product is originated from fish ataupun chicken, for example, then they might have some count, but the count should be according to the regulation. Okay, because why? The presence of this E. coli, Salmonella, Clostridium botulinum, and then they have other industries, they have their own specific target pathogenic microbes. So these pathogenic microbes, it should not be present because it can cause death to the consumer when they consume the product. All right, and then in terms of the safety, okay, safety, if let's say the product, this one I have mentioned to you before, whereby one of the company, they suspect that they have a glass chip in one of their product, and it's already been packed and being sold to the market. So that one is considered as dangerous, critical defect as well, because glass is transparent, and the example that I gave you, it is meant for infant formula. So infant belong to the category of sensitive group of people, right? So that's why this particular first product criteria is considered as hazardous or critical defects to the consumer. Okay, but then normally in terms of the regulation, they does not violate the regulation. It's a matter of they are having a threat towards the human health and safety. Okay, and then the second criteria for the critical defects, basically the product is a not the product is edible, okay, but then it will not give effect towards the human health as well as safety of the consumer, but then it is probably it is violating the law. Okay, contohnya macam if let's say you bought collagen powder, for example, and they are added with steroid. Okay, contoh so steroid is considered as prohibited by the law to be added into food products. So it's already against the food laws. But then the product can be edible. Okay, and then the third category, the third criteria, the product is approved by law to sell or consume. So supposing there is no problem for this particular product, okay, meaning, okay, kalau you all tengok yang tanda pangkah ni, because this one I asked Eddie, kalau tanda pangkah ni meaning they don't have any problem, okay? Meaning that they are, they are okay. But then if let's say they have this particular tick, meaning they have problem with that particular issue. Okay, for the product, the defects basically are being noticed by the consumer. Okay, contohnya macam apa tu? Regulation. When you look at the list of the ingredients, or when you taste the product, when you consume the product, of course you can have some, of course you will notice in terms of the taste, in terms of the appearance, in terms of the effect towards the health. Okay, so of course it will affect the health as well. For consumer, basically they will they buy this particular product that having critical defects? Mostly no, they will not buy this particular product, okay, that is having critical defects. And in terms of positive usability of the products, of course, because this particular product, it cannot be used, it cannot be consumed, so it is not able to be used. Okay, so for this particular point 5, contohnya you pergi ke Tesco ataupun Giant, sometimes you can see there's a one apa tu area, they put it as clearance stock. Contoh clearance stock. So you can see that basically that particular product that is being labeled as clearance stock ataupun having a 50% off for food product, basically they have some issues related to that particular food material. Okay, in terms of the packaging, is dented ke, or is already being opened and then they reseal that particular product, or the product is nearing towards the expiry date. So those are the things that can be considered as critical defects. But that particular company, hypermarket, they still try to sell it anyway just to get back their cost, right? Okay, so this one is an example of critical defects according to the level 1, level 2, level 3 I have mentioned just now. Okay, and then major defects. Okay, for major defects, basically for major defect, it will not affect towards the in terms of safety, is still affect towards the safety, but it will not cause up until death of the consumer for that particular product. Okay, so for the first one, criteria, whether the product is dangerous to the consumer health, basically no. Okay, and then whether the product is edible, it is still edible, but then it gets some issues with this particular product. Okay, the product is approved by the law to be sold or to be consumed. Basically, they don't have any issue for major defect product. They don't have any issue with the regulation. So it still can be sold to the customer consumer. Okay, and then in terms of products defect, they are being noticed by the consumer. Yes, they are being noticed, but then some of the consumer, they will buy it anyway. Okay, so positive consumer preference in terms of buying. Of course, if let's say you have some consciousness towards the defects of food product, you will not buy. But some consumer, some customer, they will buy because they thought it is a matter of saving their money. Okay, whereby this particular defective product, they will have an issue later on to their health or probably to the product that the other products that they are consuming. Okay, and then in terms of positive usability of the product, can the product be used? Basically, it cannot be used when it falls under the category of major defects. Okay, so example of major defects, we have dented. Okay, dented on this particular can. So if let's say you want to buy a product that is in a can, so the first thing first, what will be the thing that you are looking for when you want to buy a product? This one, I'm asking you, what will be the first thing that you are looking for when you are buying a product that is in a can?
Not
Tengok
dented.
internet ke tak?
Not dented lagi.
Expiry date.
Sorry. Sorry, I punya Siri dia apa ni cakap juga. Apa lagi selain daripada dented?
Expiry date.
Expiry date. Okay,
Expiry
good.
date.
Betul. Lagi?
Dia punya apa nama tu, dia punya macam label macam lusuh. Dia punya colour is like macam nampak lama.
Oh, okay. Oh. And probably apa? Dusty ke tak ke kan? Alright. So yang betul. Sebab kalau you pilih barang, mesti you ambil yang, bukan ambil yang depan, ambil nombor 2, ambil yang nombor 3 yang belakang tu. Yang depan tu tak nak ambil. Tak tahu kenapa kan. Memang apa? Habit orang Malaysia macam tu. Okay, so the first two yang you answer betul. That one fall under the category of major defects, whereby the first thing first kita akan tengok the integrity of the can. Sebab if let's say there is a small dented of the can, sebenarnya bila ada dented, dia dah akan ada some opening towards the oxygen tau. There's a pinhole, kita panggil a pinhole of the can that will allow the penetration of oxygen. When there's an oxygen going into the can, so what happened? Apa jadi?
Microbial growth.
Yes, betul. Especially pathogenic microorganism. Okay, there's a chance for the pathogenic microorganism to grow. You all tahu kan pathogenic microorganism?
Dah belajar
Tahu.
sem lepas.
Kan dah belajar kan pathogenic microorganism. You all kena tahu that term pathogenic microorganism. Lepas ni you nak sambung degree ke, you nak pergi kerja ke apa ke, that pathogenic microorganism tu memang you kena tahu which microorganism fall under the category of pathogenic and non-pathogenic. Nanti orang kata, ada count dekat apa total plate count. Ni pathogenic tak? You kata, pathogenic. Tak boleh sebab kita kena isolate. Kena try buat untuk those pathogenic microorganism. Okay. So bila ada pinhole of on the can, then there is a possibility of oxygen to go in and it will support the growth of microorganism. And some more, product yang dalam can tu is a very good nutrient for the microorganism to grow. So that's why as much as possible, first thing first, apa yang kita akan tengok is the integrity of the can. Itu betul. Okay, and then the second one will be the expiry date. Okay, normally for canned food, they will have long shelf life, basically 1 year to 2 years. So if let's say you tengok kadang dekat bahagian clearance tu, there there will be a lot of issues for the canned product whereby the can is already dented, satu lagi is nearing towards the expiry date. So it is not good for you to buy canned food that is already nearing to expiry date, because bila it's already nearing to expiry date, you can think of that the product has been produced a long time ago and it is not being sold. So the hypermarket, they try to sell at a lower price because they all nak duit. Okay, they all nak profit. And customer yang beli tu ingat dia jimat duit sebab dia kata, oh ada lagi, contoh ada lagi sebulan nak habis. Padahal this particular canned product has been produced 1 year before. Okay, so it is a very long shelf life for the canned product. So yeah. Okay, and then in terms of glass packaging product, so sometimes ada yang chip off, the integrity of the glass packaging is not good enough. Okay, yang itu pun considered as major defect, sebab kalau ada chip of glass, okay, glass material, kita tak nampak, because glass, unless it is coloured, if glass is transparent, bila you contoh you masukkan dalam you punya when you cook, you cannot see that particular glass particle, and when you consume it will affect towards your your digestive tract. Okay, and then in terms of badly broken label, that one fall under the major defects as well. Maksudnya contoh katakanlah it's not really if let's say the label is discoloured, sometimes you still can read the discoloration of the label, tapi probably there's some scratch, okay, a severely scratch on that particular label yang you tak boleh nampak. Kadang-kadang tu in terms of dia punya expiry date you tak nampak, berapa tahun berapa, you tengok 2021, lambat lagi 2021, tapi you tak nampak when is the date of the expiry, 1/1/2021, tapi produk tu is nearing towards the expiry date. So certain thing that you cannot see for the label on the labeling, whereby it provide important information to you, then that one fall under the category of major defect as well. Okay, and then if let's say the product kalau ada macam dusty, a little bit dusty, that one is still okay. Tapi you boleh nampak kalau you go to hypermarket, sometimes they have their own staff that is being assigned to wipe this particular packaging because of the dust. Okay, tapi sometimes you can see some product they are being soil, maksudnya kotor on that particular packaging. Probably because contamination from other product yang pecah ke, tumpah ke, tapi this particular stuff they all tak notice that one, then they just leave it as it is. Lama-lama dia stay on that particular packaging of the product. So dirty, greasy ataupun soil. Soil tu bukan maksudnya macam it is being contaminated dengan tanah tau. Soil tu it is also can be from the contamination from other products ke, dough ke, makanan tumpah ke, and it soil that particular packaging ataupun the product itself. Okay, apa term untuk soil ni, you jangan fikir it is only meant for tanah saja. Okay. Alright, and then the third classification is minor defects. Okay, minor defects are the product, in terms of the criteria, the product is not considered as dangerous to the health of the consumer. It is edible. In terms of the regulation, it is approved by the law. There is no problem in terms of the regulation. But then, for this particular minor defects, it is being noticed by the consumer. Okay, but really depends on the group of people whether they want to buy or not to buy. So when we have this minor defect, normally customer dia all akan beli je, because to them it will not affect the food product itself inside of the packaging. So probably it's just a matter of the packaging itself. Okay, and the usability of the product can be used when although it is fall under the category of minor defects. Okay, so these are the example of minor defects. Contohnya slightly scratch level. Okay, macam tadi yang major defects tu whereby the product is severely scratched. Okay, and especially it is scratched on the important part of the information for the packaging. Or probably they have this eligible codes. Eligible codes ni contohnya macam, do you know that they have this barcode kan? Every single product they have their own barcode. So for example, the barcode is not being registered in the uh, apa retailer ke ataupun in the producer ke, that one is very minor. Okay, so this in terms of the codes. Slightly soil exterior. Okay, kadang-kadang mungkin ada sedikit kotor, that one is still considered as minor but not heavily soiled. Minor blemishes on the packaging. Okay, minimal net weight. Minimal net weight ni, it is not really considered as defective. Okay, for food product, basically kalau you all tengok dekat packaging, they have this, kan you all dah belajar FST200 kan? They have this minimum weight, net weight and etc. Okay, that particular weight is basically the minimum amount or minimum weight for that particular product to be contained in the packaging. Contohnya katakanlah dia tulis dekat on the packaging, berat produk tu net weight is 50 gram. Contoh 50 gram. So normally for food producer, they will try to give more than 50 grams for the customer or consumer because they all tak nak lah ngam-ngam 50 gram they all jual dekat orang. No, basically they will go up until 55, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55. Above than that, more than 55, it will become too big. The product will become too big. So itu pun dia all akan reject jugalah dekat production by the producer. Tapi they have their own specification for the weight of the product. So although the packaging stated net weight 50 gram, okay, net weight 50 gram, they still can sell this product with the weight of 50 grams. Tapi contoh katalah kita selalu beli that particular product and selalunya kita beli the product is having weight more than 50 gram. Okay, but one day bila kita beli, masa tu maybe because you are in hurry, then when you grab the product and when you open up, you look at the product is so small. It's a relatively smaller compared to the normal the same product that you bought before. Okay, and you pun macam okay tak jadi nak makan, you pack balik, you balik rumah you timbang. Bila you timbang, oh 50 gram, then you complain. Actually it is not a defect, it is not a faulty for the producer because they already stated minimum weight is 50 gram. Unless kalau you timbang, you balik rumah you timbang berat dia 49 gram, contoh 49 grams, then that one is having an issue. Okay, but some of the customer and consumer when they have this ngam-ngam the berat of the net weight tu just as per label on the packaging, then they feel that they are being cheated. Okay, but in real case actually it is not. But we can consider that one under the minor defect as well. Okay, headspace variation, this one kalau you notice, you all notice pernah beli tak sos tomato, sos chili ataupun kicap in a glass bottle ataupun plastic bottle ke apa ke? Tahu tak?
Benar.
Pernah.
Okay. Do you notice each sauce, chili sauce ke, tomato ketchup ke, kicap, soy sauce, normally they have the label at the center of the bottle and at the top part of the bottle. Have you ever wonder why they have another label at the top part of the glass bottle?
No, I've never
Betul.
went there.
Never wonder and beli je. I
Ha-ha.
nak yang live. I suka yang Maggi. You have no ada jawapan lain tak? Have you ever wonder why they have this particular label on top of the glass bottle of this ketchup ke? Even you beli apa tu macam air Ribena ke, still they have this kind of label at the top part of their product. Tak pernah question why. Okay, why? The answer is because this one, headspace variation. Okay, so one thing, okay, untuk tomato ketchup ataupun chili sauce, sometimes, okay, there's a two main reason why they have this small label on top of the glass packaging. Okay, one, contoh untuk tomato ketchup and chili sauce, sometimes at the top part, they will have some browning effects tau. Okay, some browning effect. So they want to mask that flaw. They all nak tutup that flaw yang ada browning dekat bahagian atas, at the top part. Okay. And the second one is because variation of headspace. Walaupun kan tadi remember we have this particular minimum net weight. Okay. So during the filling process, of course akan ada piston. They have this automatic system to fill up the bottle. Okay. But then it can vary. Contoh katalah botol depan is 100 grams. Botol belakang is 99 grams. So dah ada beza 1 gram. Jadi maybe the height is slightly different. So how this particular company they want to cover up that difference of height walaupun berat dia sepatutnya achieve to minimal weight is by having that particular small label on top of that particular bottle. Okay, sama jugalah macam kicap. Okay, cumanya you tak pernah nampak untuk Coke ke ataupun Pepsi yang itu. Sometimes they all memang pack sampai atas kan. They all tutup terus. The whole thing, the whole bottle tu memang they are being covered with the label. Okay, because basically what they want to achieve is they want to hide the variation of headspace. Okay, dalam can pun sebenarnya ada juga. Okay, you all ada buat tak food processing yang dalam can tu? Sempat tak buat sebelum lockdown semua ni?
Tak, madam.
Tak. Kesiannya. Sebab sepatutnya bila you all buat food processing tu, some of the product yang you all akan buat tu, you all kena masukkan dalam glass bottle. So bila masuk dalam glass bottle tu, you kena ukur. You need to measure the height of the headspace because different height of headspace will give different effects towards the integrity of the product inside of that packaging. Okay. So itu function dia. Jadi macam this particular industry they are smart lah how they want to mask up, how they want to cover up the flaw. Tapi flaw tu bukannya major and bukan critical. It fall under minor defects. Okay. And then the following example for minor defects is having a broken or dusty item in a package. So kalau broken tu selalunya kita akan discard lah. A bit dusty, then we can wipe off the dust on the packaging itself. Okay, light rays of a whipping of a gel. This one, I not sure. What does it mean by this one? Light rays, or is it a trace? Okay, and then some indication of freezer burn. Okay, freeze burn. Yang ini especially goes for the frozen product. Sometimes for frozen product, you can see there's a mark macam burn, macam terbakar. Tapi actually it is not because of the burn, but it's because of the rapid cooling process, okay, that happen to that particular frozen product whereby it becomes burn. Okay, kita ada freeze burn, kita ada chill burn juga. Sebab dekat industry, this one as I mentioned to you before, they all tak pakai this one I'm talking about big industry. They all tak pakai peti sejuk yang macam dekat rumah kita ni. Selalunya they all akan pakai those chiller or freezer that is being assisted with a fan. Akan ada kipas and the temperature can drop at a very fast rate compared to the housing the electrical item ataupun the cooler and freezer yang kita ada dekat rumah ni. Okay, and then the following category is insignificant defect. Insignificant defect, the product is not being dangerous to the consumer health. It is edible. Okay, there's no problem in terms of the taste, in terms of the regulation, in terms of the preference and the usability. The product still can be used, but then this particular insignificant defect, some consumer they will notice, some of them they will not notice this particular insignificant defects. Okay, contoh insignificant defects whereby contoh katakanlah on the labeling dekat packaging tu ada small white dot contohnya, small white dot, and it does not give any significant effect towards the information, towards the color of the packaging, towards the information of the packaging, tak ada effect. And it is not against the law. So that one can be considered as insignificant. And normally when we have this type of insignificant effect, katakanlah untuk packaging untuk QA QC kita akan check tau the packaging juga. When the packaging material arrive, kita akan check the packaging material tu, because packaging material is considered as raw material. So sometimes this particular small dot, it is hard to see by naked eye unless if let's say you are a very detailed person. Kalau you are a very detailed person, you akan notice those kind of insignificant defect. Tapi selalunya insignificant defect ni kita tak akan record. Ataupun if let's say kita nak highlight the issue, we just highlight to the supplier, just bagi tahu we have this kind of insignificant defect. Kindly for you to improve your production later on for the next incoming supply of this particular material. Okay. Tapi yang untuk macam major defect, critical defect, lagi satu we have apa? Minor defect. That one normally kita akan critical, major, minor. Yang itu kita selalunya memang kita akan record. Okay. So example of insignificant defect, for example the texture whereby it is slightly firm or brittle than normal. Slightly saja it does not give a very significant effect towards the product perception. Okay, in terms of the aroma, it's contohnya ada bau macam serai tu lagi kuat compared to previous batch ke. Tapi sikit lah, it is not very significant in terms of the colour as well as in terms of the viscosity. Okay, tapi as much as possible, ini yang saya ada mention dekat you all before, as much as possible for food industry, every time the new batch is being produced on that particular day, they all akan collect sample and they all akan buat sensory testing. Sensory testing tu in terms of bau, in terms of the colour, they all akan tengok sama tak appearance macam sebelum ni, in terms of the rasa, taste, they need to taste. Of course the first thing will be the taste. So kalau rasa dia sama macam normal, sama macam sebelum ni, of course they will release and market the product. Tapi kalau katakanlah when you taste the product, it's slightly harder. Not slightly harder, it is harder compared to the previous product or the incoming product. So yang itu memang kita takkan jual. Okay. Dalam food industry, kalau katalah kita rasa tak confident for that particular product to be sold, so basically kita memang takkan jual. Even if let's say the decision you need to throw 10,000 pieces of product, 10,000 package of product, you just throw it away. 10,000 pun 10,000, because kita tak nak just because of one product, it will affect the whole reputation of the company. Okay, so that's how serious the company is when they are producing food product. Itu yang jaga integrity and jaga reputation lah. Okay, so the second one. Okay, do you want to have a break sekejap? Sebelum kita sambung and habiskan this particular chapter?
Boleh, madam.
Oh nak break ke nak teruskan je? Boleh tu apa? Boleh apa?
Nak break
apa
pun boleh.
Oh nak break pun boleh. Okay, so kita take a break for 5 minutes dulu. So around 10:56, around 11 dah macam tu. Join balik
Baik, madam.